routine, as if a state of emergency had not just been called, and the whole country was not about to grind to a halt. Poppy passed St. Bride's Church, along with black-robed solicitors and barristers heading up to the Temple Inns of Court. As always, she gave a splash of colour to proceedings. Yes, there was bad news abroad, but there was always bad news. And despite what she'd just seen on her recent trip home and fearing there was more to come, Poppy nonetheless felt a bubble of joy within her. It was spring, and in its honour she wore a bright yellow daffodil in her lapel, offset rather charmingly by the sage green of her new suede coat. She had purchased the coat at Harrods with her friend Delilah the previous day. Delilah, the daughter of a Maltese hotel magnate, had bought far more than a new coat, but Poppy had been pleased with her purchase. Oh, and of course the cloche hat she had bought to match. And the shoes. She felt a little guilty about the shoes. They were far more than she could really afford on her reporter's salary, even with the clothing allowance she received for being arts and entertainment editor. But nonetheless, she'd given in to Delilah's, "Oh, darling, aren't they just the cat's whiskers?" After all, the whole purpose of the shopping expedition had been to cheer up her poor old chum, so Poppy just didn't have the heart to say no. The green Cuban heels clicked on the Fleet Street pavement. "Morning, Sarge," she called out to the disabled war veteran, selling carved wooden crosses outside the Empire tea rooms.
"Morning, Miss Denby,"
he called up from his folded-up blanket that cushioned his bandaged stumps. His furry friend, a bulldog named Reginald, snuffled Poppy's hand as she reached down to give him a pat and toss some coins into his master's bowl. She would have stopped to chat with Sarge. No doubt he'd have some strong views on the miners' strike. But it was nearly 8:30, and Poppy wanted to get an early start. "I'll see you later, Sarge."
"You have a good day, Miss Denby."
"I will." She smiled, and Sarge soaked in the sunshine. It was Friday morning, and she had to put the finishing touches to her copy for the Saturday morning edition. Poppy prepared herself to ascend the 6 marble steps into the offices of the Daily Globe. In the 9 months since she'd been employed on the London tabloid, the thrill of those 6 steps had not worn thin. She noticed a smudge on the brass straps around one of the marble globes that flanked them, and took out a handkerchief to wipe it clean. She was proud of her newspaper, and even more proud of the articles she had contributed to it, not least the 2 huge exposés that had set her up as one of the best up-and-coming investigative journalists on Fleet Street. But those sorts of stories were exhausting, and she was grateful that she'd had a few months of ordinary events to cover. Gallery openings, book reviews, film premieres, and celebrity interviews. It was a giddy world, and she loved it. She took in a lungful of spring air, hoping not to inhale too much pollution, and walked into the foyer. Her heels clicked across the black and white marble floor on her way to the lift. En route, her eye caught a new statuette in a marble alcove, carefully positioned to enhance the Art Deco theme of the atrium. The concentric geometric frames gave the illusion of depth, and the mirrored back of the alcove reflected multiple versions of the brass Isis. It was Isis, wasn't it? Poppy leaned forward to look. "Rollo brought it in this morning, a gift from Miss Reese Lansdale, apparently." The explanation came from the direction of the reception desk. "Morning, Mavis, you're back. Did you have a good holiday?" "Morning, Poppy. I did, thank you. Mr. Bradshaw and I took in the sea air in Brighton. How was your Easter break?" Poppy took a surreptitious look at the black lacquer clock hands embedded directly on the white wall. Should she give Mavis the long story or the presse? Her Easter break, spent with her parents up north in Morpeth, had been interesting. She'd spent most of the time helping them with a soup kitchen for the families of miners at Ashington Colliery who were struggling to make ends meet on the pittance they were paid. It was in stark contrast to the high society life she was now living, and had reminded her to count her blessings. It was the first time she'd been home since arriving in London the previous summer, and her parents were itching to hear all about her new job, and the new man in her life. But this did not go as well as she'd hoped. Poppy had been prepared for their concerns about the dangers she'd recently faced in her 2 big stories, but she had not been prepared for their objections to Daniel. She sighed inwardly. The presse. Definitely the presse. It was lovely to be home, Mavis.